Hi, in this film we'll be looking at how to play scales with speed, lightness and ease, particularly in terms of how we change position using our thumbs. Now we'll be looking in the context of legato for this. There's a very common idea that as soon as we play fast, we don't actually play legato at all, and we don't pass the thumb under the hand whatsoever. Now, the story is that supposedly an experiment was done where many famous players were asked if they passed their thumbs. They all said yes, and then they were filmed playing fast, and supposedly slow motion footage revealed none of them were passing their thumbs at all. Now, I'm not suggesting this technique is never valid, it does get used, but as far as I can tell, this experiment may just be a complete myth. I've found no sign of it anywhere where I've searched, no details whatsoever. And what I can say for definite is there's a film I'll link of a very accomplished pianist in super slow motion, playing very fast scales, and he does pass his thumb every single time. It's completely legato. It looks no different from when he plays the scales at half that speed. So it seems to me there's a bit of a myth here. As I say, I don't want to invalidate the technique outright where we throw. Arpeggios, it probably becomes more important not to play legato all the time. But what I'll be showing you is that even in the context of 5-finger scales, you can have absolute legato and you don't have to do any weird contortions at all. So the style of thumb passing I'll be showing you is not based on this kind of really extreme reaching. I'll show you at the outset that if you can do this, that's all that's required to play literally legato, even full 5-finger scales. And then when we come back to the 4 and 3 scales, even easier still. I mean, if you can't do that, it doesn't necessarily matter. If you can do this, touch your 4, touch your 3, that's all you need for our basic scale fingering. So I'll show you briefly a 5-finger scale. No contortions, none of this kind of stuff. This is one of the common mistakes that we have to take out of scales, to use extreme elbow out. But this is fully legato, 5 fingers. No hopping whatsoever, same on the way down. So no contortions, no hopping, but still true legato. Okay, and let's have a look from directly on top. Same on the way down. And let's try fairly fast. Obviously not quite as precise as with regular fingering. But I will show you just a little bit of work on 5-finger scales is going to make it so much easier when we go back to the 3s and 4s. Now let's start with the basics of just going up and down 5 fingers. The first thing I want to say is we need to understand rotation. When we go towards finger 5, what we have to avoid is pushing into finger 5. We don't turn around a centre in the middle of the hand. Finger 5 is aligned to the centre of the forearm bones. Rotation goes around the line of finger 5. So this is the first thing. When we go in this direction 5 fingers, we need to get used to avoiding pressure. So just touch your finger 5, spin around there, don't add any pressure. And then do the same when you walk along the fingers like this. Do that on a flat surface first. Coming back the other way, towards the thumb, this time it is possible. We're kind of unravelling that rotation around 5 centre. So that means we could actually use that to help these fingers move much more in this direction. However, too much of that will squash the hand. So I would still think the same way when we come back this way. We can make our thumb become the centre with a little bit of the upper arm rotation as well. So when you come this way, turn around the thumb. When you go this way, turn around finger 5. That's very important. I'll get back to that on the piano. So if you want to be able to play fast, this is the first thing, not to have any compression, not to use that to move the keys. Use that to make yourself free while the fingers take the keys. The arm is moulding itself around the playing fingers. It's not trying to provide the energy to drive the keys. That's one of the classic mistakes. It gets horribly imprecise. The connection of the arm is just to mould around those fingers. Okay, so now we'll look at how to pass the thumb. As I say, we're going to go to the extreme. We'll actually pass under finger 5 first. If you find this completely impossible, you could always skip this and go to the bit where I show you how to pass under 3s or 4s. But I assure you most people will be able to do this if we tackle it in the right fashion. So in order to get this position, we're going to cheat first. I said before, we're not going to drive the elbow out. To start off with, we're going to do that deliberately. We won't play the scales for real this way, but what you want to do is find how you can hold both of those down at the same time. Then bring the elbow back in and straighten it out. So I'll show you in the mirror here how extreme I might do this. I might literally turn my whole body this way, rather than try and stay in the same place. Once I've got a position, and I'll show you again, these two fingers are basically extended. They need to do little more than be able to touch each other. There's a tiny sense of the thumb crossing maybe, but barely anything at all. It's just two fingers touching the keys like this. So now looking in the mirror here, you'll see I straighten my body back up. I slowly drift the elbow back in. I keep poking those fingers out basically, keep them extended like this. And I come back around like this. And at the end of that, as you saw before, I'm not in a very unusual position. There's a slight diagonal in this direction, but there's nothing extreme about what my elbow has to do to maintain that. So if I got to the point where I was forcing the elbow in against my side, then I've gone too far. We just find where's that natural point where we're staying on those two keys. It doesn't feel like we're reaching at all, as I say, just that feeling. But we're now safely on top of them. Once you've found that position, spend a little bit of time there and come back and do this. Actually pass. Same on this one. Now the other thing to add here is you need to be right on the edge of the key by here. If you're reaching far into the key, this isn't going to work. You'd have to go way too far. So this is part of the trick, to be right on the edge, open up. Right on the edge. Same thing on the way down basically. Now this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go too far again. Now I'm going to come back again. So again, I turned my whole body that way. Same premise, just approaching it from the other side basically. Straighten it back out again, reaching out like this. Once you've found that, you'll find you can basically get there as you play the scale. So now we'll come straight back to the regular thumb passing. As I said, this is going to feel ludicrously easy, but honestly some people do this extreme stuff, really reaching the arm out to the side just to get under 3. Totally unnecessary. If you've learned to do this first, now you come back, pass under your 3, this is really going to feel like nothing at all. There's only the slightest diagonal angle to make that happen. No extreme elbow out required. Now, when people struggle with this, very often it's because there's too much pressure. It feels like when they go over, the thumb can't make it. So a really big thing is to make sure we have openness, that we stand tall on the finger. Same when we pass under finger 4. If we open space here, we turn a little bit to the side, we turn back again. So I'm going to show you the rotation now as the other big thing. There's a little bit of that roll. As I said before, the roll is not to bear down into the fingers. Again, if we're rolling to bear down, the thumb's going to feel like it can't make it across. The roll is just to turn around those fingers while standing tall, keeping space. Then if you roll back the other way, the trick to that thumb is it's going to push the hand open. It's not a case of do this and then turn the wrist around like that to bring the fingers over. We shouldn't really feel that we're doing anything to bring those fingers across. The trick is the thumb pushes a bit that way, a bit to the side. When the thumb pushes to the left, if the hand is free to respond, the hand is pushed back around to the right. So a good exercise for this actually, sometimes is to exaggerate that passing over. As the thumb pushes into the key, we push the fingers tall first and let them down. Then when you become accustomed to that, you can actually do it fairly quickly. So you'll see my fingers changing position here, but what I stress is the inner feeling is of a thumb action and responsive fingers. I don't feel any of this stuff going on. I don't feel my fingers reaching. I feel the thumb is ready to push. I'm turned a little bit to the right. As I turn back to the left, the hand resets itself. Same sort of thing again, I turn a bit to the right. As the thumb plays, the hand resets itself. Now the premise is the same on the way down, by the way. If you want to be able to do this fast, it's not the feeling of just kind of cranking everything sideways like this. This is one of the classic mistakes. I know it looks like that's all that's happening within a fast scale. If I show you a bit, you don't really see a lot of that going on. But to compare, if I actually held it rigidly into this alignment, like I was cranking that along, see what happens. Basically, I feel like I have no access to the keys. I feel they can't properly stand out of the keys at all. They're so withheld, they're straining to get down into the keys, and they take no balance. from the way they manipulate the keys. They're prodding at them from afar, like walking on tiptoes or something. So the rotation which we're doing, what that accomplishes is the sense that we're already connected to the keys to then stand out of them. If we feel we're held up here, we don't get those responses, we're stuck. We have to do all that stuff. You've got to feel you can respond. Now, on the way down again, what happens is you actually have to go a bit too far. I'm exaggerating a little bit much now. We don't need to go as far with the elbow out, but it's a little bit of the feeling. We've not reached just far enough to get there. We've reached a bit past it, then roll back. Again, a little bit past it, roll back. Now, we don't need much of an excess. Again, it's the problem. We don't want to be doing these kind of things. We get stuck if there's too much of that. But you want just enough of that. You've got something to return from. And then again, as I return, see how my fingers pop out back into position. This is the key for speed, that we're not reaching to get there. We're automatically taking the third finger in such a way the hand pops open around it. Same on finger 4, go past it, go back. So, a good exercise for doing this kind of thing, at first, pause there each time. Pause before and after. Before the thumb, after the thumb. We can feel the preparation for it, and we can feel the sense of the reset. Same premise on the way down. Pause on the thumb, pause after on the 3 or the 4. Feel the reset. Again, pause on the thumb, pause after for the reset. The next one is to go one beyond the position into the change of position. So you can't do this one straight away. At first, if you try and do that immediately, you'll probably lose the sense of the roll away and the roll back. It will probably get stuck again. So we've got to build in enough of this feeling first. And then as you get used to it, you roll that way, you come back again as you get there. It happens very quick in the end. But every one of these is built on that rotational feeling. Same on the way down. If I go one past the thumb on the way down, I've got to feel that I've gone beyond and returned. If I try and go straight there, particularly when you go fast, this is where we jam. We feel stuck. That's the real blockage of speed. If you don't get a little bit of going beyond and rolling back the opposite way, you won't feel free when you get to that key. So one beyond each time, one beyond the thumb. But as I say, it's always feeling like the change of direction is occurring as we get to that last note. That's what pops the hand open. So then if I go really quick, the whole thing has this kind of feeling of rolling back and forth. If you build that in with how you pass your thumbs, it's going to feel really easy. And as I said, thumb passing, never do these kind of exercises, by the way. Never do that kind of thing where you're reaching from the thumb alone. The trick is the arm movement takes us through the group of fingers and brings the thumb to the key. You never want the feeling the thumb in isolation is reaching alone. Just going back briefly to the 5-finger thing. I mean, imagine if you tried to do that on your 5-finger thing. You wouldn't get anywhere near. So that's why the 5-finger one is such a valuable thing. We learn the relationship between thumb reaching, which is relatively minor, and the drift of the arm, which plays a big role in assisting. It's neither just the arm, it's not that huge hop. That feels horrible. It's a shortened, even if it is a slight hop occasionally, we at least shorten the distance with the thumb itself. We never literally want to kind of throw the whole thing across. So, yeah, the very fastest ones, maybe. Occasionally we could do that thing, having a little bit of a throw of the arm. But for me, if you've not learned to do this first, don't try this hopping stuff before that. You want to get your legato feeling built in. Once you can do that, you can say, yeah, maybe I won't go as legato. But it comes from the same place. It's not a whole different world. It's just the extension of what we practiced in the first place, with true legato, based on this feeling, plus the drift of the arm.